All right. Yeah. Hey, shout out to everybody here who has zero coding experience. I feel you. Everybody at some point in their lives had zero coding experience. That's a fact. That's a fact. So, hello, everybody. My name is Sarab. I'm your instructor for this session. This is purely just us learning how to code, and that's it. We're just going to learn how to code, and you guys are going to see if you like it. If you like learning how to code, at least from what we're learning right now. So a quick background about me. I come from a background of social work. So I worked with adults with autism and learning disabilities and other situations going on in their lives. And I was working at that job, and I decided I needed a career change because I was getting paid about $11 an hour, and it just wasn't gonna cut. It just wasn't going to cut it financially. So I decided to learn how to code. I actually joined Coding Dojo in 2017 as a student. So I was sitting where you are right now. And I came in with -100 experience because I opened up Microsoft Word my first day, because that's the only place I knew where I could type, So I was like, I got to type some code, right? So I'm going to use Microsoft Word because that's where I could type some stuff. So hey, shout out to all the people that said zeros and -1s. I feel you, so apparently that's not where you type your code. It's in a different software entirely. So I was able to graduate from the boot camp and find a job within about 3 to 4 months after graduating. The boot camp was challenging, and it does push you outside of your comfort zone. And I took the full-time boot camp, so I was spending about 70 hours per week learning and actually building applications. In the boot camp, you're going to learn by actually building software applications. You're going to be a software developer. You're going to be developing software since day one, all for the whole boot camp, and then also after the boot camp ends during your job search process. And I found a job within 3 to 4 months. I think it was closer to 4 months, and worked as a software developer for a government contractor for about 4 to 5 months until Oracle reached out to me, Oracle Corporation, and they reached out to me via LinkedIn for a batch of interviews that they were doing for early entry-level software developers. So I was able to get that interview and get a job there, and I worked at Oracle for about almost 2 years. And then Coding Dojo actually reached out to me because they were looking for new instructors, and they reached out to some of their former students that had actually gotten some industry experience. And I realized, hey, you know what, let me give it a try, because I really enjoyed my previous job of social work and teaching and working with people. So I moved from Oracle as a software engineer to come here to teach people how to become software engineers and go through that whole process where you go from -1 coding experience all the way to being an engineer in the industry. So I am here to guide you through the very, 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 very beginning of coding, like literally like the beginning. Like we're gonna go from -1 to 0. How about that? We're not even gonna go from 0 to 1. We're gonna go from -1 to 0. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. Let's get this party started here. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And usually, in order to code, fun fact, it was not Microsoft Word. That's not, I learned like in the first hour of the boot camp that is not where you do coding. It's in something called Visual Studio Code. It's a free software it's a text editor. It looks like this. It looks like this right here, right, where you can type some code. However, in order for me to more conveniently, effectively, and efficiently share my code with you so that you have the code and so that we can see the output of the code in real time, I'm going to be using something called CodePen, which is this thing. Anyone can use it. It's completely free as well. And oh, by the way, Visual Studio Code, you can download it for any machine, Windows, Mac, Linux. If you're using Linux, you probably already know how to code. Like, if you're using Linux, just like go sign up for that Google interview right now. Get out of here right now. I'm just playing. But if you're using Mac or Windows or Linux, you can install Visual Studio Code. This is developed by Microsoft, so it's a very well built and popular application. Microsoft Word was also built by Microsoft, funny enough. So there we go. So we are going to be coding here, though. This is codepen.io. I will share with you guys the link as soon as I get a link for here, and I'm going to get a link for this as soon as I start typing. So I'll share that with you guys in just a second. However, before we go to the coding part, remember, we're not going from 0 to 1, right? We're going to go from -1 to 0, just to even like talk about what's going on here, okay? So somebody give me a website that you use like almost every day. Put it in the chat. I want to make this collaborative, so the more you collaborate, the more you're going to learn. YouTube, I love YouTube. Yep, I love YouTube. Shout out to YouTube. Okay, so what just happened? I am on the browser. I'm on Google Chrome. You could use Internet Explorer. You could use Safari. You could use Mozilla. Use Google Chrome though, it's the best. So I'm going to Google Chrome and I'm going on this area where I can type some stuff. I think everyone has done that at least. Is that fair to say? Are we starting off on the right track here? Everybody has used the internet to go on a website? Okay, cool. So at least, okay, so that's all you need to know. There you go. So we're going from -1 to 0, okay? I go on this web address bar and I type in, if I just type in youtube.com and press enter, I'm making what's called a HTTP request. And notice I just typed in youtube.com, but it automatically populated this part for me. HTTPS, www. What this is essentially saying is I'm making an HTTP request. Don't worry if you don't know what that means. But it's some type of request that you can make in order to access a web page. That's all it is. This is a request. You know how you can request for some water from somebody, like, hey babe, can you give me some water? Right, that's a request. I made a request to my wife to give me some water. She just looked at me like, huh? But on the browser, I can make a request as well. I can make a request to a domain name like youtube.com or amazon.com. Someone said linkedin.com. LinkedIn is great. I love LinkedIn too. You guys really suggesting some good websites here. Okay. LinkedIn and YouTube, that's all you need, right? So NBA.com. I love basketball. Shout out to LeBron James and Luka Doncic, top 2 players in the NBA. And whatever website we're going to, it's going to have a domain name. It's going to have some name attached to it. ESPN.com, Reddit.com, right? So that's a domain name. So when I type in a domain name, it's going to be attached to some computer that has all the code to run that website. So this youtube.com domain name, when I press enter, it's going to make a request on the web and it's going to figure out, hey, which computer owns youtube.com's domain name? And where should we forward this request to? And this request is going to go to some computer. So let me go on the whiteboard. I got this set up for you. So imagine this is us right now, right? This is our laptop, maybe. It's a laptop. I made a request. I made what's called a HTTP request to youtube.com. Can a brother make this smaller? Yes, I can. All right, let's do this. HTTP request, youtube.com. And can we move this right here? Perfect. So I make a request to youtube.com on the browser. It's an HTTP request. And what happens is the internet is going to figure out, hey, which web server owns youtube.com and is responsible for youtube.com. So it's going to find some web server. There's like millions and billions of web servers probably. But here's one that it identifies that's going to host youtube.com. And then this server is actually going to give us back a response. So I make a request and I get back a response. So the response I get back. So the web server gives us back a response, and the response is a web page. And it's going to contain, don't worry if you don't know this yet, but HTML plus CSS plus JavaScript, okay? So that's the response that we're going to get back. For example, look, I make a request, I get back a web page. Look at this web page. Right, this is the web page. I go on Amazon.com. I make a request and I get back a response, and this is the web page that Amazon.com has. And the response is in the form of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You probably don't know what that is yet. That's okay. So but at least you know that this is a web page and we're getting back a web page. Okay, now let's talk about what HTML is. Let's talk about what CSS is, and let's talk about what JavaScript is, because that's something you may not know. And be ready, because I will have a pop quiz. I'm gonna throw a pop quiz on y'all. Okay, so HTML is the content of the web page. When I say content, I mean, you see these words like hello, select your address, this Amazon logo, this picture, this image right here. Here's an image of a blender. Right, here's the caption, it says fan shop. Here's some bolded word, like it's more bold, like everything for college, right? Here's some hyperlinks. This is content. Here's a button. Buttons are content, right? There's some more text here, more pictures, more hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are just like content that you can click on. It'll take you to a new, it'll make a new request to a new route right here, right? So buttons, right? Images. So HTML is the content of a web page. Okay. So let's take a look at what Amazon.com looks like with only its content. Okay. I have this Chrome extension. It's called Web Developer Tools. It allows me to play around with this website a little bit. If I click disable all styles, okay, this is what Amazon.com webpage looks like with only HTML. As you can see, it's all the content. But what happened to the content? I got rid of the CSS and JavaScript, and now it's only HTML. So what happened to the content now? When I got rid of the CSS and JavaScript, it went from, yeah, it had no style. It had no style, right? No stylist, right? In the famous words of the famous poet Drake, no styling. So this web page had no styles. So right now it has, if I refresh it, it goes back to the way it normally is. But you see now the content is styled and laid out. So HTML is the content, and CSS, if I disable CSS, it gets rid of the layout of the content. So there's no styling of the content. So that tells us CSS is the styling of the content. Or if you want to arrange, if I want to make this picture and this picture bigger, or if I want to make, these links in one box in one area, if I want to organize things into certain boxes, I want to lay out these boxes, that's going to be CSS. So HTML is the content, CSS is the styling of the content or the layout of the content, or even the coloring of the content. And then JavaScript is the interactivity of the web page, meaning it's based on a user action. Certain actions you can do on a web page, like if I click, that's an action. Or if you hover your mouse over something, that's an action. So anytime I perform a certain action, if the web page reacts to me performing that action, that's JavaScript. For example, if I hover over this content, that's an action. That's a hovering action, right? I'm hovering my mouse. If I hover over it, this content gets some styling around it. It gets a border around it. If I hover over this, it gets some styling, right? Let's take a look at another action. If I click on this little button right here, it will change the image. So JavaScript, that's what JavaScript is doing. JavaScript is responsible for interactivity between the user and the web page so that the web page reacts to the user's actions. Okay? So HTML is the content. CSS is the styling of the content. And then JavaScript is, if I perform a certain action, I get some reaction back. I guess it reacts to me in a certain way. In this case, the action is if I click right here, it'll change the image. Or if I hover over here, it'll give it a border. Right? So that's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Pop quiz time. Okay. Imagine, I'm going to use a metaphor here. Type a 1 in the chat if you have ever moved to a new apartment and it was unfurnished. Okay, cool. All right, so now let's say you're moving into a new apartment and you have a bunch of furniture already, and you're bringing it to this new apartment. You're bringing a bunch of things, a bunch of content into the apartment. And has anyone ever moved into a new apartment, and when you just put all your furniture in, you just kind of like make sure it's all in the apartment, right? You just make sure it's just all in the apartment first. So what does the apartment look like as when you first move in? You just put all your content, put all of your luggage. It looks like a hot mess. Okay. It looks like a hot mess. There's no arranging of the content, right? Okay, cool, good. Okay. So in this case, the furniture that you're bringing to the apartment, what is that? Is that HTML, CSS, or JavaScript? Okay, that's the content of your apartment. Good, you guys are doing really good. Wow, okay. Now, let's say you moved all your content into the you moved all your furniture into the apartment, and you're like, okay, it's a hot mess. I want to make the couch across from the TV, and I want to put the TV over the desk. And then I want to put a carpet right here, and I want to paint the walls green. What is that? CSS. I want to lay out the content. Okay. And then let's say you perform some action, like you call some friends over, and they bring a bunch of gifts. They bring a bunch of stuff to add to your apartment because you performed some action of calling them. Then you got back some reaction of more things coming into the page, more things coming into your apartment in the form of people and more gifts, like a housewarming party. What is that? JavaScript, good. And I see you guys are really good with this already, so I think we're ready to move on. Any questions so far? How are we doing? You can put in the chat, or on a scale of 1 to 10, how clear was that so far? So I know whether to move on or not. And okay, cool. All right, cool. So that's the gist of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So a web page, whenever you make a request, right, on your laptop or your computer, you make a request to a domain name like youtube.com, amazon.com, facebook.com, Instagram, whatever. You make a request, and the web server gives you back a web page, and that web page consists of 3 components: content, HTML. HTML is content. CSS. Okay, or the layout of the content, and then JavaScript. And I move this chat window. Yes, I can. And then I'll just say interactivity. Okay, cool. This is what's called the request response cycle. Fun fact, actually, this was actually a question in my first interview that got me a job. They said to explain the request response cycle, like how does a software application work? And if you can explain this, that was the question I got for my first job. And they also asked me some SQL questions, like SQL queries for database, but that's a different story for a different day. But this is part of it. This is an interview question right here. So congratulations. If you understood all this, you understood a very popular technical interview question that software developers are asked for their entry-level software developer jobs. Good job. Yay. Okay. So let's move on. Let's actually build something, because Amazon's beautiful, you know, YouTube's beautiful, but we're going to make our own beautiful page. All right. So I'm going to go on this code pen, and I'm going to share this link with you guys, but it won't give me a link yet until I start typing. So if I just type in, so what do you think I would need to start with first in order to build a web page? Then, like when you move to your apartment, can you just style an empty apartment, or you need to, yeah, you need to have some content. Even if it's paint, you need to bring some paint, right, to style it, right? So like the wall is the content in this case, right? So you need some HTML. So let's start with HTML. And HTML has certain rules of how we write it. We can't just write it like we write regular words like hello, right? So you see that it's types in my word here. This is the output that we're going to see. This is the web page that we're building, but this is not how we type HTML. But we can put content into certain things called tags, because remember we had different types of content, right? We had some bold words, right? We had Amazon, right? That's really bold. We had pictures or images. That's another type of content. We had more bold words, but also non-bold words like find your tech. That's like regular words. We also had hyperlinks. So there's different types of content. So in order to tell HTML what type of content we want this word to be, we can surround it in what's called an HTML tag, like some tags. So there's different types of tags in HTML. In order to create a tag, you need to have this symbol and this symbol. So like the less than and the greater than. And in between it, you can tell it what kind of content you're about to write. So H1, for example, means the most bold, attention-grabbing piece of content you can create. And I'll say hello. And now notice hello is bold now, right? And in order to finish off this content, I need to close it like this. So the closing tag is just like the opening tag, except it has a slash. So now the code knows, or the computer knows, hey, hello is going to be a H1 tag, but anything after hello is not really H1, right? If I have, what is that right here? Notice this is no longer styled like the H1 is, because the H1 begins at here and ends with the O. So that's us telling us, the computer, to give us some bold content here that's attention grabbing. And it's not just, there's more to it than just being bold, but that's a different story for a different day. So there's another element called the paragraph tag, where in between, if I can just write in some text like, hello, everyone, this is a P tag. A paragraph tag looks like regular text. Okay. Cool. And then, there's other types of tags. If I want to put an image, if I just type in img and press tab, I'll be able to get an image. Oh yeah, let me get the link here real quick. Now that I have the link available, I can just save it. Log in. And hold on, Zoom is in my way right now. Hold on. And then I have this link. Now I have this link. I can actually share this with you all in the Zoom chat. So keep this link, save it somewhere, because by the end, we're going to have a web page. We're going to build a web application where, let's say we have a customer who is a fortune teller, like a psychic, but she can only tell people, she can only give service to people when she's awake during her work hours. She can, give people their fortune predictions. However, she wants to automate it so that even when she's asleep, people can access this website that will tell them their fortune. Okay, that will tell them exactly the answers to their questions. And then when she wakes up and comes back to work, she can, be live in person to do it. But right now, we're going to make a web application where a fortune teller can automate their fortune telling services. Okay, so let's do that. But before we do that, let's cover some more HTML elements. So this is the H1, this is the paragraph tag. And there's other types of, these are called header elements, anything with an H. So there's H1, H2. Let's see what H2 looks like. Okay, and then let's do H3. What do you think happens as I go from H1, H2, H3? We can go all the way to H7, I think. No, H6, I mean. It goes up to H6. It gets smaller. Perfect. Good. It gets smaller. So header H1 is the largest, and we can make it even larger if we want to using CSS. But these are called your header elements, and an element is just any content you see that has its tags and its content. So a tag is this thing right here with the angle brackets and the name of the tag. This is the H1 tag, and there's a closing tag, right? And this content. So the combination of the tags and the content in between the tags, that's called an element. So this is the H1 element right here, H2 element, H3, H6. Paragraph tag is not going to be bold. It's going to be regular font. And then we can do different types of content like images. So let me do an image. Let's do, put down the greatest basketball player of all time in the chat, please. I know. Everyone's leaving the chat now. I know. Everybody probably. Tyler Hero. Let's just do LeBron James Game 6. Sorry to anybody from Boston. I apologize. Viewer discretion is advised. So I click on this. Copy image address. So for the image tag, it's a little bit different than the other tags. It doesn't have its own closing tag like this, like /img. And then you put some link here, right? It's not like that. Image tag actually is just one tag that just has the word image right here. SRC represents where the image is going to come from. And in here, that means source, by the way. Source of the image. I can paste the link for the image right here. And now I got an image here. Okay, cool. Alt is for if the image doesn't load up properly, then the text that you'll see, or if someone has visual impairments, they might be using a screen reader to access websites. And maybe alt is where you describe what the image is really like. LeBron James Game 6. After beating Celtics. Okay. So this is the description of the image. And the description is not going to show. Whoa, what happened? Description is not going to show up, but if the image fails to load, for example, if I misspell this link, then the image is going to show up. Well, yeah, it's going to show up like a broken image, and it's going to say, hey, this is what the image is supposed to be. So just in case the image fails to load, at least we have something to show. All right. But okay, cool. Let me undo what I just did. So that's an image tag. And there's other types of tags. If you want a hyperlink, that's called the anchor tag. If I just type in A and press tab, anchor tags have an opening and closing, but the opening tag also has some extra data that you can put in. Href means where is this link supposed to go? For example, let's take a look at an anchor tag here. Let me move this image tag down so it's not blocking everything. But anchor tag, I'll say this is a link to something. Notice how the anchor tag shows up as a link. And I can tell it where to go, like www.nba.com. And then if I click on it, it says, I might have to do the http:// Actually, from CodePen, it won't let me go to another link because it might be blocking the website from accessing it. It looks like I'm hacking it, but in a regular text editor, this link would take me to nba.com. Okay, so pop quiz. What kind of tag is this right here? Perfect, good. Yep, image tag. What about this right here? This thing where I can click on it, it'll take me to a new web address. What is that? That is the thing that I can click on and it'll take me to a new web address. Yeah, you can. Okay, I see you guys are saying href. Yeah, you can call it anchor tag, but yeah, anchor tags have the href. So yeah, you're on the right track. Good. but those are called anchor tags or A tags. Notice how the closing A, but yeah, it has the href, so good job on that. Okay, what about this? It's kind of bold. It could be like an H1, H2, H3, one of those H something is a valid answer. So H in some number, right? Because they're all bold right here, these H's. Okay, cool. And one last one. What is this right here? This text that's not bold. Regular text, basic text. P, paragraph tag. Perfect. It's called a paragraph tag. Perfect. Good. So those are, those are just some of the many tags, but we're going to get started with those. And cool. Okay. Let me get rid of all this. We're actually going to build something now. So let's go ahead and build a web page. And in order to build a web page, we're going to need these elements to be grouped into boxes. Notice how things are grouped into boxes here, right? Right here, it's all in one big blue box, all this content. It's a blue rectangular box. And then here it's a, it's another dark blue rectangular box. Here's like a gray box that contains this image and this H3 or H2 probably, and some paragraph tags and an anchor tag, right? So notice how things are organized into boxes. So what we're going to do is in order to represent a box, the tag is called a div. If I type in div and press tab on my keyboard, it'll automatically create the opening and closing tag for me. But a div doesn't look like anything. It doesn't show up as anything. So imagine a box that is transparent. So it has no color. It's transparent. It has no borders that you can see. And it has no height. So are you going to see anything then? You're not. But divs are used to organize content that are related. So in this case, if you have all this content right here, like this content and these 4 images, and then this link, they're all wrapped inside of a div. A div is this box, and then you can style the div using CSS, but that's what we're going to be doing. So let's start with a basic div here. Let's give it a, and in order to give it I can give this div a name using an ID equal to container. So this is an ID. I'm identifying this particular box, but this box, it has no height, it has no color, so we're not going to see it here. But what we can do is we can style it using CSS. So if I want to make this box gray, for example, I could do that. Hashtag, in order to target this word container, that's the name of this box. In CSS, I can say, hey, what do I want to style? I want to style this div. So I can say hashtag container and then curly braces. And in between the opening and closing curly braces, I can define what this div should look like in terms of the style. So I can say, first off, a div, it has no height. So let's just give it a height of, I don't know, 1,000 pixels. You know how in human language we use like inches and centimeters? In computers, we can use pixels and some other units, but 100 pixels of height. But we still don't see it because even though it has 100 pixels of height, imagine a box that is transparent and it's 100 feet long, but it's transparent. So if it's transparent, that means it's invisible. You can't see it. So let's give it a color. This is how you give a color to something, background color. And I'll say, I don't know, green. Cool. So now we got a green box showing on the page. Okay. You see how there's this white border though? If I want to get rid of any extra borders, there's this thing that I can do. Okay, so this just means select everything on the page and give it completely reset all of its any default styling that's there. So don't worry too much about this, but this helps it so that any extra styles that come with the browser are not active. So now it's only going to have the style that I tell it to have, which is right now for this box, a div is just a box with the name of container. So with the name of container, box with the name of container, give it 1000 pixels in height, background color green. I can also say background color yellow. I can give it different colors that we know in English, like black, gray. I can give different types of colors. I can also give different heights. Like, let's see what 100 pixels looks like. So it's 100 pixels in height, and by default, the width of a box is gonna stretch as far as it can inside of its inside the page. Yes, you can also set the background as an image. Yeah, we're gonna do that later. We're gonna make something a background image. But yes, we can also make the background an image. Correct. Yep. But we can make it colors. We can make it single colors. We can make it multiple colors. We can make it like a wave of colors. And we're going to show examples of that too. But okay, cool. I can give it different heights. Like let's say 100 pixels. Let's say 200 pixels. Let's see what 200 pixels looks like. 200 pixels in height. I can give it a width. 100 pixels. Now the box has 100 pixels in width. But if I give it 200 pixels in width, it's going to look like a square. Okay, so here's a box. It has no content inside of it, but I'm able to style it. And the box is like the content in its own way, right? But it has no other stuff inside of it. So let's make it so that this box represents the whole background for the page. So I'm just going to give it 1000 pixels in height, and I'm going to get rid of this width. So it just takes up the whole width. If I don't give it a width by default, it'll take up the whole width. So now we have a box that is 1000 pixels in height and background color is gray. Okay, cool. Other things we can do with colors. We can also do hexadecimal values. So let's take a look at what hexadecimal values is. Okay, so there's different types of colors right here. And it'll give me the code for these different colors. Because what if it's not exactly blue, but it's not exactly yellow? It's like blue yellowy, you know? So I could say, okay, blue yellowy. Let me get a little bit of blue. This tool is not good, actually. Hold on. Let me go to a different tool. Buy now. Excuse me, buy. $19 a month. Okay, hold on. BRB. Let's find some free ones. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So yeah, you see this helps me get some colors right here. This is like you know, you could say this is yellow, but you could also say this is yellow, or this is yellow, or even, oh, this is kind of like greeny, right? But you can represent a color as a code, like this. This code right here represents this color, this shade of yellow, right? Or if I change this, you know, make it a little bit darker, make it a little bit more greeny, right? I could do that. So let's do CSS color palette. This will help me generate a bunch of colors. Please don't. Okay, accept the cookies. You know what? Accept the cookies. Please just give it to me for free, please. Okay, cool. Our new tutorial. Okay, cool. So I can do different types of colors. Matter of fact, I'll show you here on the. I had a better color palette thing. Where was it? Okay, cool. This is better. Just Google. Okay, CSS Color Picker. So let's say I want like this version of yellow. It's like a little bit yellowy green, right? Or let's say I want something a little bit darker because it's like a fortune telling. Let's do something like purple. Okay, let's do this purple. I can represent that purple with this code right here. It's a hexadecimal code. And I can go over here, and instead of saying gray, I can just paste that code, and I get that color. Okay, cool. So that's our overall box. But now let's say inside of the page, inside of this container box, I want to put another box. Like maybe I want to put a box right here. Like right over here. Like kind of like a navigation bar at the top. So I could do that by saying, I can create a box, div dot, let's call this, I'm just gonna say div, and then I'm gonna press enter, and I'm gonna say, give it an ID of nav bar. Sure, I can give it any name I want, by the way. I can call this, you know, bar if I want to, or just nav, or I can call it, you know, Sarab. I can say anything I want here. I can give it any name I want. But when you give a name, just make sure there's no spaces in between. Okay, so if I want to say nav bar, it's two different words, I'll separate it with a dash. So okay, if I want to target this particular box, that's going to be inside of the container. Notice the container div, it opens right here, and it actually closes right here. And this nav bar box is inside of this container box. So you have a box called nav bar inside of a box called container. But we don't see the nav bar box because by default, a box is transparent and it has no height, so you can't see it. So let's style nav bar. Hashtag nav bar. That's how you tell it, hey, I want to style this particular element, and then curly braces. And then I can indicate my styling for the nav bar here. I can say height, let's say 100 pixels. And then background color, gray. So now I have a gray box right here. Cool. That's like our navigation bar. And then let's say I want, maybe I want everything to, I want this to have a border maybe. This gray box called navbar. I made it gray. I can give it a border. So another CSS property that I can use is border. And when I want to create a border, I can tell it how thick the border should be in pixels. So let's say I want a 2 pixel thick border. And then what kind of border, like solid or dotted or dashed or grooved. So if I say solid, that's one option. And then the color of the border. So if I say blue and then semicolon, it'll give me a blue border, right? Let me make this bigger. 20 pixels solid blue. Look, now I got a 20 pixel solid blue border. I can also say dotted. Now I got a dotted border. Dashed. Now I got a dash. I can say groove. Now it has this little groove here, right? There's different types of borders you can do. And there's more options than this. And when you start learning how to code, especially in like a coding bootcamp, we're going to organize all this content for you into the learning platform. So you can see all the different options that are available for styling and all the different options that are available for the values for each property. So these words in purple are called properties, CSS properties, like height, background color, right? And then the value is the thing on the right side of this colon. So the height value is 1000 pixels for the anything called container in my HTML. So this div is called container, which opens here and closes here. It's purple basically, and then 1000 pixels. So let me make this border smaller again. Actually, let's do like 4 pixels so you can actually see it. Cool. So now I got a border. Okay. And now I can put some content inside of this navigation bar box, which is this gray box. Okay. So in order to put content inside of this navigation bar box, which line do you think I need to type in if it needs to be inside of the nav bar box? Line 3, because the nav bar box opens at line 2 and it closes at line 4. So if I want something inside of the nav bar box, I have to be inside of the opening and the closing tags. If I put it here, Any guesses where it's going to show up? If I put it in line 5, if I put some word here, is it going to show up in the gray box or the purple box? Yeah, it's going to be in the purple box, like testing. Right here, it's in the purple box. But if I want this to be in the gray box, well, I can just move this up right here. Perfect. Now in HTML, we can't just put, random text wherever. We need to wrap it around a tag. So what kind of tag would be best if I want it to be nice and bold for the name of the page? It would be called the fortune teller website. H1, let's do H1. So, and I'm going to indent so it's easier to see the relationships of what is inside of which. Because if I indent and put a H1 here, right? If I have it like this, it's kind of hard to see that this H1 belongs to this div. But if I put tab, it's almost like now you can see, okay, the div opens and closes here, and the H1 is inside of it. This is called the child element because it's inside of this div. So H1 is a child to the nav bar, and the nav bar is a child to the container. Okay. So for the H1, let's have it say, I don't know, someone give me a cool fortune teller name. Like what's the name of someone that sounds like a fortune teller? Yeah. Ronald. Okay. Czar. I said Czar. Okay, let's do Czar. Okay, CZAR. Czar. Okay. Czar's magical fortune site. Okay, cool. I got some content here. Excellent. Now, it would probably make more sense if this content was even bigger because it's like the title of the page. So I could make this, even though H1 is the biggest we can make in the HTML, we can make anything bigger using CSS. So I can target this H1. I don't have to give it an ID to target it. If I just say H1 here on the CSS, now the CSS is saying, hey, target anything that's an H1. And I'm going to say font. In order to increase the font size, it is font size property. And the value, I can do it in pixels. So let's do 30 pixels. Should make it a little bit bigger. 30 actually makes it smaller. So let's do 50 pixels. 50 makes it bigger. Awesome. I can make it a different color, font color, using the color property. You would think it's probably font color, right? But it's not. Color, let's do, I don't know, let's look at the color picker here. It's a good color that might go with, let's do this little color right here. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this whiteboard thing. Okay. And I'm going to go here, paste it. And to end each line, you need a semicolon, by the way. So you need a semicolon at the end of each line. So now the color of this is a little bit different. I'm not feeling this color though. Sorry. Just not feeling that color. So let's do a little bit darker version of that color, so it doesn't hurt my eyes. Czar's magical fortune site. Awesome. Cool. And if I want this H1 to be centered, the property for that is text align, and the value is center. And now it's centered on the page. Awesome. I can even do some cool stuff, like I can give this text a shadow. I can say box shadow, and the value for box shadow, and you'll learn this as you learn how to code, but I'm just going to show you. I can tell it, I'll show you, I'm going to type it out, and then I'm going to explain it. Okay, let's do 4 pixels, 4 pixels. So it gives a little shadow to this box here. But not box shadow, I'm sorry, text shadow. Text shadow gives a shadow to the text for each and every character. So that now it looks like there's like some shadow here. You see that? Now let's talk about these values. The first value is on the x-axis, meaning on the horizontal plane, how far away it needs to go. So if I say 40 pixels, it's going to move 40 pixels. The shadow is going to move 40 pixels to the right. If I say negative 40, it's going to move 40 pixels to the left. If I say 400, it's going to move 400 pixels to the right, the shadow. All right, so let's just keep it at 4. 4 looks nice. You can also do any number you want here. You can even do decimal numbers. And then this one is for the y-axis. So if I say 40 here, it's going to move 40 pixels down. Any guesses on how to make it move up, the shadow? Minus, negative, yeah. So if I say, let's say 40 makes it go down, but negative 40 makes the shadow go up. Perfect, good guess. Good pattern recognition. Pattern recognition, that's basically the #1 skill you're going to need to develop in order to be good at coding. It's pattern recognition. Cool, and then this third number is how blurry the shadow should be. So if I say, I don't know, let's say 100 pixels. You can barely even see it because it's so blurry. Let's say 10 pixels. It's kind of blurry, right? Any guesses what would happen if I say 0 pixels? It'll actually be super solid. So the larger the number, the more blurry it becomes. So if it's like 100, it's so blurry that you can't even see it. You can barely, you can kind of see it, but not really. But let's say like 30 pixels. It's so blurry that it's like all mixed together now. You see that? Like if I say 3 pixels, it's a lot more solid. All right, let's do 10 pixels. Okay, it's kind of hard to read with 10 pixels. Let's do 6 pixels. So that's how blurry it can be. Perfect. And then this is just the color of the shadow. So if I say green, then we get a green shadow. Looks like slime, but okay. Cool. And there's so many more properties. Trust me. Like learning all this, and it's been like 30 minutes. So there's a lot more, but let's keep going. Okay. Now let's say we didn't want just a solid background color. Maybe we wanted, like, you know how Amazon.com has this gradient right here? It's like dark purple and it gets like light. It gets a little bit lighter here and it slowly kind of just fades away. We can do something like that. I'll show you a tool that we can use. Cssgradient Dot Io. I will post this link in the chat. This will help you generate a background color that has a gradient. So I can tell it whatever color back theme I want. So maybe I want a color theme of, yeah, let's stick with blue. But I could tell it, I can click on this one and I can say this one can be red, right? And this one can be, a little bit less red. And this one can be like pinkish, right? I could do that, but I want a theme of bluish. So let me just go ahead and go with light blue. And then this one can be maybe a little bit darker. And this one is almost like fading into the ocean, right? A bit darker. Right? This is where your creative skills come in. A bit darker. Maybe it just goes to purple at the end, like, or maybe it just goes to yellow. I don't know, right? We could do that, but I actually like it fading into purple. That looks nice. Okay. This is pretty nice. I like this. Matter of fact, maybe I don't need this many options though. Maybe I can get rid of one. So if I press X here, it's going to get rid of one of these bars. Okay, cool. So, okay, so maybe this is the color theme I want to use. It slowly fades, and I can tell it, how much of it is going to be this much, right? If I go like this, I can slide it, right? Perfect. So maybe I want this background. Okay, it gives me the code for it now. In order to, this is called a gradient background. So if you don't want just a solid color, you want it to fade into different colors, like we see in Amazon here, right? It's like they chose like the dark purple to like bluish light purple theme, right? We picked our like, you know, turquoise to blue to pink theme, right? We can do that, and it gives us the code for it. Trust me, you're not expected to know how to come up with this on your own, okay? Nobody knows how to do that, except for like maybe like some genius out there somewhere. But okay, we just copy that, and I'm just gonna say, hey, you know what? For nav bar, so I want the nav bar, this gray box, to no longer be gray. Let's get rid of that. Hey, I don't want it to be gray no more. I want to paste that code that I just copied from over there. And now we got this. Yay. Okay. I see Rachel's getting excited. Yeah, holy cow. Wow, that rhymes too. Cool. Maybe I don't like this text being this color then. If the background's going to be that color, right? So let's go ahead and do a different color. Something darker for the text. For the H, so I'm targeting the H1, which is this text, and I'm saying, hey, you know what? I don't want you to be this color anymore. I want you to be this color. So now it's easier to see. And you know, maybe I want the shadow to be like a little bit more blurry. And I don't want a black shadow. Let's do like a gray shadow. Okay, cool. Nice. All right, cool. And you can really like play around with this and do whatever. We could spend like hours on just this. But let's move on, because I don't have that much time to spend on just the H1. I want to show you more things. So, okay, maybe like a little subtitle. You know, like how there's a title. Maybe I could have some regular text right underneath that describes like the slogan of the website. Like, what kind of tag would I use for that, for regular text? Anyone remember? Paragraph tag. So paragraph tag, maybe it'll be like the slogan. It's like, get your fortune while it's hot. Cool. But maybe I also want this to be centered. So I could say, and maybe I want to target this paragraph tag with an ID. I could do that. I could give an ID saying slogan. And if I give it an ID, I can actually target the ID. Slogan, text, align, center. Maybe I can make it bigger fonts. By default, the paragraph tag, its font size is 16 pixels, so we have to do something bigger than 16. Let's do 20. Cool. And then maybe, yeah. Maybe I want this H1 to be, I don't know, maybe I want this slogan to be like cursive. And how do I do that? How to make text cursive CSS. Programmers, we're not going to remember everything. There's no way, there's absolutely no way we can remember everything. So this is what we do. We are essentially professional Google searchers who recognize patterns really well. That's all it is. A software developer is just a professional Google searcher / documentation reader / pattern recognizer. If you have those 3 skills, that's the main 3 skills you're going to need in order to be successful here. So Google search, how to make text cursive CSS. I think we could have all searched that, right? And then it'll show me, oh, font style property. Okay, I'm going to click on it. Font style, italic, oblique. Okay. Okay, I guess italic, but how do I make it cursive though? Cursive, okay. How to make cursive text in CSS, right? And then it'll show me here, CSS fonts. Okay, there's different fonts we can use. You know how in Microsoft Word you can access different fonts, like, I don't know how to pronounce that. Helvetica, right? Verdana. Great question. I see a question. Is the code always in US English, like center and color, not center and color like in other languages? I think you can set up your text editor with the language you want to type in. I haven't tried anything other than English though. But there's got to be a way. I mean, Look at all these countries that got websites, right? So I'm pretty sure it's going to be in, there's going to be some setting in your text editor or coding editor where you can tell it what language you want to write in. But for now, let's go with English, just because I don't know, I don't have experience using another language yet, in another human language. So cursive, there's so much to search here, right? To find cursive, so many words. I can just do Control F on Windows or Command F, and it'll bring me this word, this box, and I can say cursive. Where's cursive at? Oh, here it is. Okay. So cursive. Okay. Cool. So I want something cursive. There's a bunch of cursive. So let's see how we can do that. So font family, and I can say cursive. Okay. So I'll just go here and I'll say, okay, font family cursive for slogan. Look at that. That looks a lot nicer now. Our website's looking a little bit better now because of that cursive and this little CSS gradient. The gradient is the different colors that you'll see right here. Perfect. Okay, cool. Now let's make it so that we have some links on the, in another box. Maybe we'll have another box here underneath this header box. So if I want to create another box underneath this nav bar, which line should I start typing in? I don't want it to be inside of nav bar. I want it to be underneath the nav bar. Line 6, perfect. So wherever this box ends, and if I click on the beginning of this box, like this div means box, you'll see it shows me an underline of the closing div. So after this closing div, I can put some content here, and that's going to be underneath that. So let's create a box, div dot nav links. If I just, that's a shortcut. I'm not going to go through the shortcuts here. But actually, let me show you how to create a div with the ID of nav links in one line, okay? If you type in div hashtag nav links and press tab, it'll autocomplete for you. And now I just created a box whose ID is nav links. But wait a minute, how come I don't see this new box that I just created? Why don't you see a box by default? You need some content. It has no color. All good. It's invisible. Yep. It's transparent with no color, so it's invisible. So Jason and Rachel with the yep, same answer right there. Good. Exactly. And it has no height. If it has no content, then it has no height. Unless you give it a height. So we need to give it a height and a color, basically. So everyone that's answered, good job. We need to give it a height and some content. So I gave it the ID of nav links, right? So I'm going to say hashtag nav links, and let's make this one like 50 pixels. Let's make it smaller than this box. Height 50 pixels. Okay, I gave it a height, but I'm still not going to see it because it's invisible in terms of the color. Like it's transparent. I think transparent is the best way to describe it, because it's actually a box that's right here, and it has a 50 pixels in height, but it's transparent, so it's basically invisible, like Rachel said. Yep. So let's give it a background color. Let's do gray. Let's go boring real quick. Let's give it a border on the bottom. You can also say border just on one side. I can say border left, border right, border top. But if I say border, then it's going to do all sides. Like border gives me all sides. But if I say border bottom, let's say 5 pixel solid black. I don't know. Okay, cool. So now it's only a border on the bottom. And let's have some nav links here. So in order to create a link, does anyone remember the tag for that? Anchor tag, good. So if I type in A and press tab, it'll autocomplete for me the structure of an anchor tag. And href is where I can tell it where the link should go to. I'm just gonna put a pound here because it's not gonna go anywhere for now. But it'll say, you know, about us. Here's a link now. About us, perfect, okay. And let's do a couple more. Press tab, and then it's not gonna go anywhere, so I'm gonna say pound. It'll say donates. Okay. Let's do another one that's going to say leave us a review. Okay. And then anchor tag. Let's do one more. Let's say someone help me out here. What's another thing that might be a link in a fortune telling website, like home? Oh yeah, home. Yeah, that would probably be the best one, right? Home. I'll probably put that at the top. Okay, so it's the first one. Okay, cool. And let's say I want all these kind of in the center as well. I could do that. If I say anchor tags, I want to target anything that's an anchor tag. Text align center. Don't. Okay. What I can say is I can say this div can have all of its text aligned center. So I can just say nav links, hashtag, nav links, text align center. Perfect. Okay, cool. If I want some spacing between each anchor tag, that's called margin. Margin is the space outside of an element. So if I want, so margin would be like, you see this little space right here? So the anchor tag ends right here with the letter E, and then a new anchor tag starts right here with the letter A. So margin is this space in between. So I can increase the margin if I want them to have some space in between them. So I can say, and I want margin for each anchor tag. So I can target the anchor tags. I can say A for anchor tags. If you want to target an ID, you got to use the hashtag. If you just want to target an element in general, this will target every single anchor tag. But this will only target something with the ID of nav links. Okay, so I'm targeting all the anchor tags. I'm going to say margin, maybe each anchor tag, I want a margin on the right side. So margin right, 20 pixels. Cool. So it's a little bit more spread out. Okay, cool. It's coming along pretty nicely so far. How are we doing so far? How are you guys doing? Any questions? On a scale of 1 to 10, how's the clarity? You guys doing all right? Okay. Cool, cool. I'm glad you guys are understanding it so far. So good. Okay, let's do it. Let's continue on. Now, let's make it so somewhere here, we're gonna have like we're gonna have some main content box. And I'm gonna use my drawing tool just to show an example of what I might want. Maybe I want like a box like right here. Let me undo that. Maybe I want like a box right here. That says some text here, like, you know, click on this button to generate your fortune. And then there'll be like a button. And I think someone asked, was it Ulysses that asked that? Someone asked that on, can you make the background an image? So maybe we'll make a button's background an image. So it looks like one of those playing cards. And then when you click on the button, it'll generate a random fortune for you. Okay, and then we'll be done with this. Cool. And then, oh yeah, let me also make it so that maybe there's like a footer here. Right here. So I'll create 2 more boxes. Okay. So I'm gonna clear my screen, clear all drawings. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. I want a box underneath nav links. So let's just go here. When this box called nav links, it opens at line 6 and it closes at line 11. So I want to go after line 11 if I want something underneath this gray box. Let's create a div. This is how you create a div with the ID of main content using a shortcut. just type in div hashtag main slash, and you can give it any name you want. I'm going to call it main. Let's call it main. If I call it main and press tab, it'll autocomplete. And now I have a box called main. And now let me just style this box real quick so we can actually see it. Hashtag main. We can't see the box because it's invisible and it has no height. So let's give it a height first. Oh no, my closing curly brace. Okay. Height. I don't know, let's say 300 pixels. Well, we still don't see it because it's invisible. It has no, even though it has a height, it's imagine if Shaquille O'Neal was invisible. He's still tall, but I can't see it because he's invisible. So I need to give him some way to see, even though he has a large height, I need some color or some, some type of content. So let's do background color. I don't know, let's think of a nice color theme for this. Let's do something like turquoisey. Yeah, we can lighten it up a little bit, right? Let's do something like this. Okay, I actually like turquoise a lot. I guess you can call this turquoise. I don't know what it's called, but the computer doesn't need to know. It just needs to know the code for that color. Okay, I don't need to know the word for that color. That's why some of these hexadecimal values are important, because I don't know the exact name of this color, or what's the difference between this and this in English. I don't know, but the computer knows the exact color because of the code. So let's just do something a little bit like this. I'm going to use this color. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it right here. Cool. And let's say I want it to be less wide. I could make it less wide if I want to. Actually, no, I'm gonna leave it like this. But if I want it to be less wide, I could say width. Let's just, I'm just gonna put a random number here, like 100 pixels. Okay, that's too small. Let's do 1,000 pixels. Okay, cool. Let's do 1,200. Okay, that's big enough. But then maybe I want to center the box. Now, in order to center the text, it was text align center. In order to center a box, it's margin 0 auto. That's how you center a box. So to center a text, it's text align center, right? That's how we center some text here. And we also centered the text for anything inside of Nav Links. Right? How do we center that? Oh yeah, text align center. Yeah, Nav Links was text align center. Oh, I don't need to type this twice actually, right? I already said Nav Links here. I don't need to say Nav Links again. I can just move this up. I already said Nav Links. So yeah, that didn't change anything. That's redundant. Okay. Cool. So I centered the box. Let's give this box maybe some well, let's think about it. Let's think about this. What if I want, you see this gray box right here? Hey, Mickey, can you give me like a 30-minute warning just so I know when to start the JavaScript part?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. So this gray box right here, and then this, turquoise box right here, I want some separation between them. Does anyone remember the property that we used to separate content in spacing? Like we did it here. Margin. Margin is the property. Perfect. So perfect. Okay. Oh, we actually have 20 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up quick. So okay, so if I want this gray box to have some space underneath it being respected, I can give this gray box a margin on the bottom. So the gray box is called, what's the gray box called? It's called Nav Links. So I'm gonna find Nav Links. I'm gonna say margin bottom 20 pixels. So now there's some space here. And then now in here, in this main box, I'm just gonna have some content here, like maybe like a paragraph tag that says, click to find your fortune. Okay, and let's say I want this text to be centered. I could do that. I can say for this main box, I want all of its content to be centered. So I can say hashtag main. So if you target a box and say text align center, it'll center all the text inside that box. And if I want to give this box some padding, padding is like some space, some cushion on the inside of the border of the box. It'll create some padding. You see there's some padding now. So now this can't touch the border of the box because there's some padding right here. There's 20 pixels of padding from here to here. Right? If I make this 200 pixels, now there's a lot of padding, right? Let's say 20 pixels of padding. Perfect. Okay, cool. Click to find your fortune, and then maybe I'll have a button here. Button, and you can't really see the button. You can kind of see it. It's just the button. By default, the button's going to look like this unless I give it some content. So let's give it some content. It'll say, click me. What if you wanted 2 lines of text stacked? You could do that. You could do that. I would just have another line right here. And there's a way to make the lines side by side as well. That's another property called display flex. But that's, students usually learn that in like the 3rd day of the boot camp. Okay, cool. So, okay, so I got this button. It says click me. But let's say I want this button to have a background color. I could do that. Let me target this button. Okay, so I'm gonna say button. Button. And someone asked, like, can we make the back? I could do background color. Right? I could give a background color, but what if I wanted to make it an image? I could do that. But let me first give it a height. I want to make it look like a card. So a card is a rectangle. So let me give it a height of, I don't know, 300 pixels. And let's not do 300. Let's do 200 pixels, height and width of 100 pixels. So it's like a nice little rectangle. Let's do 150. Okay, it's a nice little rectangle. Let me give this button some margin top so it's some space here, but we can do that later. But here's a button, and I'm gonna make the background of this button a card. So since we're running a little bit low on time, I'm just gonna show you how to do that real quick. I already have a link to an image of a card. So I'll show you that right here. So I have this image right here of a card, okay? Just like a typical card you might see when you play poker. I can use this link as the background. So I can make an image a background. I can say background, and then URL, and then I need to put it inside of quotes, the link to the image. And as you can see, the image is way too big to fit in this box. So what I can say, I can tell the image to size to the dimensions of the box. The dimensions of the box is 200 height, 150 width. So I can say background size, and I can tell it it actually needs the width first and then the height. So I'm going to say width 150 pixels, height 200 pixels. And now we got this, we got this image as a background for, oh yeah, I could use a tarot card, but for the sake of time, I just figured I would use something that I already have. But yes, if you wanted to, you could just Google tarot card pictures and then copy the link to that picture, the image address, and you can use that instead of what I have right here, okay? Because just like I use a LeBron James image earlier. Okay, cool. So now when I click it, I want something to happen. What language would we need in order to accomplish that feature? When I perform some action, I want it to give me a perfect JavaScript. So we're on the last part now. But this is a very basic HTML, CSS lesson so far. I'm not going to add any more CSS, but I'm going to talk about JavaScript now. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I want to do is I want to in JavaScript, we have something called the console where it'll just, we can, for example, I'll show you something. Console.log, hello, this is in the console. This line of code is saying log this text to the console. And the console, you'll see if we click on the console button right here, you'll see, hey, hello, this is in the console. Perfect. Cool. So that's just for testing. I'm going to get rid of that. In order to get rid of that, I can just comment it out by using 2 slashes. And I'm commenting out this line of code. Or I can just get rid of it completely. Let me clear the console. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to have a bunch of potential answers that the fortune teller might be able to give me. Now, keep in mind, the fortune teller is asleep when this website's active, because when the fortune teller is awake, then you can just talk to the fortune teller one-on-one. But when the fortune teller is asleep, then we need a bunch of popular answers that can be used to give as fortune telling answers, like yes or no, or pizza is the answer, or something like that. So give me some potential answers that a fortune teller might tell you. And I'm going to put it in this variable. I'm going to say var in order to create a variable, and I'm going to give it a name. Life's answers is equal to, and I want to put a bunch of potential answers inside of, so this is called an array. Don't worry too much about what it is right now, but just know that I need some structure to put a bunch of answers in. And each answer, I'll represent it in quotes. Okay, you will win the lottery. Okay, let's do the basic ones first. Yes, and then no. Right. I'm going to separate each answer with a comma. And then, okay, so you will win the lottery. Another potential answer, maybe like, nope, not gonna happen. Or I'll say, yes, what you must do this. Another potential answer, like, hey, fortune teller, should I have kids next year? Maybe the answer might be like, get some pizza first, then decide. Maybe another answer might be, a mystery person will enter your life. Okay, a mystery person will enter your life. Okay. Let's do one last one. Find, I don't know, ask your dog. Dogs know best. Okay, so these are, we can go for a long time with this. This is getting too fun, but yeah, lottery numbers are that, right? So these are potential answers. We want the fortune teller to maybe randomly tell us. So maybe I'll be like, hey, fortune teller, should I go to 24-hour fitness or Lifetime Fitness gym? Which gym should I sign up for? And then I click on this button, and then it'll give me one of these answers in return. Okay. So I wanted to randomly pick one of these answers each time. Now, keep in mind, each answer, it has a certain position. So this is the first answer. It's at index 0. So let me show you how that works. Console.log. So life's answers is the name of this is an array. An array is these square brackets that contain things inside of it. This is the name of the array. And to access things in the array, right? Notice when I console.log life's answers, it'll show me the whole array of answers. And if I use square brackets, I can tell it which item in the array. So the first item is index 0. Second item is 1. So if I say 0, it's going to give me yes. Let me clear the console real quick. I don't know why it's not console, but okay. Console.log. Life's answers at index 1. That's going to give me the second answer. So yes and no, right? So it starts counting from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I say index 6, it's going to give me mystery person. So if I say index 6, you should see mystery person, right? So what we want to do is we want the computer to randomly generate a random number from 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 things. Okay, I want to generate a random number from 0 to 7, and I want to display that answer on the page, and then we're done. Okay, in order to do that, I'm going to write something called a function. Let's call this Oracle. Okay, you can name this function anything you want, and this is how you write a function in general. And students usually don't learn JavaScript until week 2 of the bootcamp. So, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to generate a random number from 0 to 7. So in order to generate a random number, we need to put it in a variable first. So let's call it var random num. You can name this variable anything you want. In order to generate a random number, we have this thing called math available in JavaScript. Math.random. Math.random will give me a random number from 0 to 1. So like 0.5, 0.6, 0.68, 0.73, right? It'll give me a random number from 0 to 1. But if I want to get a random number from 0 to 7, I'll just multiply by 7. So now this will give me a random number from 0 to 7. Okay, I could write a comment here. That's not going to affect the code, but might be. But okay, so this will generate a random number from 0 to 7. And then what's going to happen next is I want the answer to be, oh, actually, it'll give me a random number from 0 to 7, but it's going to include decimals. So if I want to round the decimals to a whole number, it's math.floor. So math.floor will round whatever this value is to its nearest whole number. So instead of getting 6.8, I'm going to get 6. It's going to round it down. Floor, math.floor is down. Any guesses as to how you round up? If floor means round down, what do you think? How do you think I could round up? Ceiling, yeah, exactly. Math.ceiling. Cool. So rounding up is math.ceiling, rounding down is math.floor. So this is going to give me a random number from 0 to 7, including decimal numbers, and then math.floor is going to round it down to a whole number. So, okay, cool. And now what we can do is we can say the answer is going to be, remember we did like life's answers at index 0 or index 1. What do you think we can do instead of a hard-coded number now? What do you think we can put here? So that we can get a random number. But right now, this is going to give me the first random. Exactly. I can just put this variable. This variable is going to represent a random number from 0 to 7. So I can say random num. Perfect. Good. There you go. And I got to put it in just like it's spelled here with the capital. If I put a capital N here, then I got to put a capital N. Cool. So this is going to be the random answer. Let me put in a variable var random answer. Random answer is going to be this. And now what I want to do is I wanted to put that answer on the page. Now, where on the page do I want it? Maybe I want it like right here. Like maybe I'll have like a paragraph tag. And answer will appear here. Ah, what happened to my website? Okay. Answer will appear here. Okay. So then I'm going to give it an ID. This is called an answer. And I'm going to tell JavaScript to put this random answer wherever the ID answer is on the page, which is right here. So I'm going to say, in order to tell JavaScript to, grab an element and give it some value, I can say document.query selector hashtag and then hashtag answer. So I'm saying, hey, select this particular element with the ID of answer and change its inner text to equal to the random answer that we generated. Random answer right here. And that's it. That's what we're going to do. So now in order for this function to run, well, I want this function to run when I do what to the button? What is the action I want to perform on the button? Click. Okay, I want to be able to click on the button. So we can actually tell the button to listen for a click event by typing in right here inside of the opening tag. I'll say on click equals to, and I need to give it quotation marks, and I can tell it which JavaScript function to run when the button is clicked. So what do you think I would put here to tell it which function to run? What is the name of the function I want to run? Oracle. I want it to run this function when the button is clicked. And then when it runs this function, it's going to generate a random number for us from 0 to 7. And then it's going to put that random number. I mean, it's going to get a random answer using that random number. And it's going to put that on the page using this line. Okay, so on click Oracle. Okay, cool. Now let's see if it works. Somebody ask a question in the chat.
I'll start first, Rob.
Yeah.
Okay, let's ask this site. Should I go hiking over the weekend?
Okay. A mystery person will enter your life. Hopefully it's not like
What?
like a
That was
serial killer.
Rachel's. Rachel, do you want to ask this crystal ball question, or anyone in the room?
I see a question. Will I succeed in Coding Dojo? Get some pizza first and then decide. Okay. What else? Give me another question. You know, it's funny. Luckily, like no one's ever asked, like, should I join this boot camp? And it randomly says no. I'm like, nah. Would you still teach me to code if I was a worm? Great question. Let me go ahead and click it. Yes.
Oh.
Nice.
You
One
guys-
last question, and then we're done. Give me one last question. What's 1 + 1? A mystery person will enter your life. Can LeBron keep up the heat? Yes. yes, I got the other one. I would have been so mad if I said that.
This is super fun. I'm loving it whenever our participants are throwing in super funny random answers there. All
Let
right.
me paste the link to the code here in the Zoom chat. So if you ever want to play around with this, you can. And one more thing. Actually, I'm almost done. Sorry, Mickey. Right now, what if I added more things to this, right? Should it still be from 0 to 7 then? If I add more things, if I add more answers? Like if I add 3 more answers, it'll only get up to answer 7. In order to make it so that it's always however many answers are in here, I could actually say, so let's say I added 3, then I would change this to 10, right? But what if, you know, someone's always going to add answers to this every single day, and I don't want to update this every single day? I can actually tell it to give me the length of this array, life's answers dot length. And that will, right now, life's answers dot length is 7 because there's 7 things in here. But if I add randomly like 55, then I don't have to do the math. It'll already calculate it for me. It'll say it gets whatever the length of that thing is. And it should still work. Let's make sure before I give you this code here. Unexpected token. Okay, it still works. Perfect. Okay. Let's clear the console. Perfect. Cool. Awesome. Okay, Mickey, the floor is yours. And you guys, the link to all of our code is in the Zoom chat. And have fun with it. That's what we want.
Woohoo! That was so awesome, Rob.